Okay, so about 5-6 months ago, there was a rumor going around of a supposed Resident Evil 3 director's cut under the name of the Resident Evil 3 Nemesis edition that was supposedly going to be being announced at Tokyo Game Show last year, which it obviously wasn't. There was a lot of talk going on around this leak at the time, and it kind of died off as soon as Tokyo Game Show came and went. It didn't appear at all, so everyone kind of assumed it was fake. And I still am under the impression that it is. But recently, with the Resident Evil 3 Remake reaching a 5 million copies sold milestone, the conversation is coming up again about a Nemesis edition, and if it's even coming. So what I thought I would do is kind of go over everything again of what this leak said, and discuss it a little bit more. And in case anyone is kind of new to the whole conversation, just kind of explain what it is to everyone. So let's just get to it, dude. Alright, so a little bit of an explanation as to why this is a thing. Basically, when the Resident Evil 3 Remake was released, it was met with very mixed opinions. People thought it was good, but it was missing a lot, and it changed a lot unnecessarily. Especially compared to the 2 Remake, it wasn't as good in terms of a gameplay standpoint. It was a good game if it was taken on its if it was taken by itself, it was a good game. If it was a remake of 3, it wasn't particularly good because it missed out a lot of iconic places and things that happened in the game just didn't happen in the remake. Just a couple of examples of things that didn't happen. Jill never went to the police station in the 3 remake, but she did in the original. Instead, it's Carlos that goes to the police station in the 3 remake. The clock tower area doesn't exist at all, which obviously misses out a lot of enemies like spiders and stuff like that. They're just not there. Nemesis works a little bit differently. It is definitely more like a pursuer type from 7. It's like a Jack Baker type enemy in this game, and it's not particularly random. It's very set in terms of when he appears in the 3 remake. It's very kind of predictable. With the original, there was a little bit of randomness involved with it, which was nice. I think that was mainly because of how the game loaded and stuff like that. Obviously the door loading screens and stuff like that. It would kind of randomly determine which room he was going to be in, but obviously with the 3 remake, you don't need to do that. So he was kind of in an area overall at the same time. But anyway, that's the things that kind of were changed. But this original idea for this director's cut was going to reintroduce a lot of old things as well as change things again. So yeah, we're going to go over the ideas now, which kind of go through the list of things that was mentioned. Alright, so it says new areas, police station, clock tower, etc. Obviously police station isn't new, but it probably would have been Jill going through it instead of Carlos. The clock tower was completely cut from the game. You can see it in the 3 remake, you find Nemesis outside it, but you don't actually interact with it at all. It's just more like a location than anything else, just in the background. It does say they will be shorter and a little bit different from the original and have some new cutscenes in them, but they would still be there, which is obviously what people wanted to see. Obviously, in relation to that, new enemy types, obviously spiders were in Resident Evil 3 that were cut. There was a big snake kind of fight, I believe, in a park. That was cut, so that will probably be there too. And it probably added a lot of enemies back into the game. All new areas now bigger and open, all connected like in the 2 remake. So basically what that means is, you know how in the 2 remake, you can go all the way to the sewers, and then when you get on the tram to go down to the Nest laboratory, it kind of gives you this is it, there's no going back after this point. And you can basically backtrack all the way back to the police station main hall from that part of the game. While in the 3 remake, at certain points in the game, you get cut off of going back to older areas. You cannot backtrack at all. It's all either stuck behind things getting in the way due to things that happen in the game, and you can't backtrack that way, or you get kind of transitioned through cutscenes and stuff like that, so you physically can't go back there at all. Which is kind of weird. I think most of the Resident Evil games can allow you to backtrack quite well. Resident Evil 4 does it to an extent, Village does it to an extent, 2 Remake does it of course, and then the original games do it too, so you can backtrack basically anywhere you want to. I think that does kind of ruin a lot of the kind of, I guess, Resident Evil experience you could call it, because obviously the games do encourage you to explore and look around and find things that may be helpful, and having those areas cut off and not connected at all just kind of ruin that, because you're in such small areas at that point, and it's kind of like, okay, so what do I do now? Next one is minor graphic updates for next gen consoles, ray tracing, frame increase, stuff like that. That was probably the expected, I would probably say that was probably going to be expected from this. It would probably be released on the next gen consoles, so PS5 and Series X and S, with some graphical improvements. I already think the remakes look really, really good, but it wouldn't be much. It would be, obviously, like it says, ray tracing and stuff like that would be added to the game, which would make it look a little bit better, of course. Reworking of Nemesis was going to be done. He will use the flamethrower while chasing you a bit more, and the rocket launcher as well, outside of his boss fights, and he would follow you into safe rooms, but to kind of counteract that, he would kind of be slower. Because if you've played Resident Evil 3 Remake on normal or higher, normal he's kind of fine, like you can kind of get away from him pretty easily, but on hardcore he's a bit quick, and then on Inferno and Nightmare, he is so fast. Like, he always catches up to you in those game modes, so having him slower does kind of make up for the fact that he can follow you into safe rooms now. So ideally, when you get into a safe room, do what you gotta do, and then leave as quick as possible. This next one is something that concerned me when I saw it at first, like way back when it first got leaked. And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it says, updated story with the references to Village and the 4 remake. That is odd. Like, first of all, why would 3... anyway, reference Village? I guess it would probably be some kind of advertisement thing, but at the same time, they're so disconnected from each other. For the most part, it's completely irrelevant to do that. And I guess the same with RE4 as well. Now that could just be a nod to the remake coming, like if you remember, Resident Evil 2 Remake got updated when the 3 Remake got announced with a letter from Jill in the gun shop saying to Kendo, you know, if you can get out, do it, but stay safe and all that. And in the demo for Resident Evil 2, I believe they updated that, where you could hear Nemesis say his iconic line and hearing him kind of walking around outside the station as well, which was cool. So it would probably be something like that, but in terms of Village, it doesn't make a lot of sense at all. Like, I don't understand why there would be a reference to Village, which takes place years later in the storyline, in 3. It doesn't make sense. Another part of this, it says there'll be a discount for upgrade owners, current owners of the game will obviously get a discount and upgrade, which makes me believe that they were going to be selling the game again. Selling it, because it's not real, so far anyway, at a full price, which would have been, probably would have been a bit of an issue for most people, considering they already bought it. I honestly think the way that the game upgrades work, even now with some games, not every game does it, some games are genuinely just do it for free, but sometimes either you have to rebuy the entire game, or pay like £10 to £20 to upgrade. If it's worth it to you, then do it, but if it's not, then don't. But that would have been probably a bit of an issue for most people. And then finally it says Resistance Mode, which was obviously the game that you got with 3 Remake Resident Evil Resistance. Honestly, quite a lot of people still like that. And you know what, it wasn't too bad anyway, I thought it was quite fun. It just says here that it would get revamped with new features and game modes. Now there was actually a rumour around the same time that this one popped up that Resistance was going to go free to play and have like a battle pass system added to the game to keep content coming out. Again, that hasn't actually kind of amounted to anything right now, and it would make sense if they were to change 3 that would get some updates as well, but that has not happened either, so you know, it's a whole thing. But that's essentially it. That's the list of things we got, and to be honest, it does sound kind of believable, but at the same time, there were so many things in that list that didn't make sense really to do. On top of that, I believe the original leak had like an artwork for the box, and that was already debunked as being like custom and not real at all. So there's your there's your slip up already. But even on top of that, you know, having those references to Village doesn't really make sense. Again, it could have just been advertising, but you know, it says references in the story to Village and 4. Specifically in the story, like having it in the game as like a quick cameo thing or a nod or something like that, it's fine, but having it change the story of the game to reference those games doesn't make sense at all. But you know, overall, I don't think this is something that's happening anymore. I think it was just a kind of a wish listy post by someone who really wanted it to happen. I could be wrong, it could still be coming, but the game's been out for a few years now, I think 2 maybe, actually, and they haven't done anything since. They already said that the 3 Remake was a final product. There was a lot of issues going around with the 3 remake and how it was developed. It was outsourced mostly, so they weren't really kind of front and center with it. Because of that, they actually, well, the rumors are at least that the 4 remake got delayed a lot from when it was originally going to be coming out, so that they could really put the work into it. I think if that came out not in a bad state like 3, like I don't think the 3 remake is bad, but if that came out in a way like the 3 remake did and it cut out a lot of stuff, people wouldn't like it, especially with it being Resident Evil 4 of all things. Like, people love this game, so they want it to obviously be good. But I don't think this is the thing anymore. If it does come out, I'll be shocked. But yeah, this is basically what this was, if anyone didn't know. Again, it happened 4 or 5 months ago, and now it's kind of surfaced again due to the news about the 3 remake selling really well. So we'll just have to wait and see. But either way, let me know your thoughts on the whole thing. Do you like the 3 remake as it is? Do you want the Nemesis edition to happen? Let me know. And as always, I'll speak to you all tomorrow.